All right, welcome to our Monday night team huddle. I'm going to run through some very quick announcements with you guys, and then we're going to get into our very special guest speaker, who is one of the best trainers in the entire network marketing industry, and he's here tonight with us live. And I have a feeling you guys are going to get to ask questions. That's gold right there. And we're going to hear all of his recruiting secrets. So really quickly, just want to make sure you guys have this on your radar. We had our power hour this morning, which was fantastic. We also have a masterclass this Thursday night. It's going to be with Tracy and Angelina, our Remon product specialist. So you definitely don't want to miss this masterclass this Thursday night. It's just going to be focused on the Boda Lab and hair, which we actually haven't done before. So you're going to learn things that you probably didn't know about this line. I know I'm going to learn some new things as well. We also have some live regionals happening. So if you know people in Northern California, send them to go meet up with Tim. If you know people in London, send them to go meet up with Chris. And then we have a Southern California regional where you can see all the names on the flyer. I'm not going to read them all, but we're going to have our president of sales. We're going to have lots of leaders in the house. So anybody in the California, London area, this is a perfect time to go to your social media to really think about, who do I know? You'd be surprised if you type it into your social media, like California, or who, people that you know in that area. You'd be surprised who comes up, or if you actually start looking through your list, there are people that you've never talked to that you have in these areas, then you could send them to that event. We also have our product university happening right now. This is the last week. So this is the last one this Wednesday. Once Angelina finishes this series, then they will release the recordings, and we'll actually get those replaced in all of our resources for you guys. So you guys can go back. Congratulations to those of you who stuck with the series. You're going to walk across stage if you finished your product university. And I don't know if you have heard, but we have a lot of incentives around recruiting this month. You can earn up to $500 in fast start bonuses for anybody that enrolls in the month of May. Even if they enroll the last month of May, they still have a 30-day period going through June to claim those bonuses. We also have free enrollment where the $20 is waived if somebody buys a starter kit. So that, I mean, I love it. It's just such an easy transition, because sometimes people are like, I don't know, let me hold off. I don't know what I want. And everybody likes to save a buck. So they're going to save that 20 bucks. And then you can also get a free Remon tote bag. This applies to anybody, no matter when you joined. If you joined a year ago, 2 years ago, if you hit manager or senior manager this month, you get this free Remon tote bag. Okay, we have convention coming up in Vegas. If you haven't grabbed your ticket, you don't want to miss this. I can tell you we have some things planned. We have new product releases. We have things planned that you have never seen before. We also, of course, are putting together a killer penthouse party for you guys. So stay tuned on more details for that. That's coming up in August. And take a very quick picture. I'm trying to go quick because I want to get to our guest speaker, but this is how you can grab your tickets. Now, we also have a promotion going on for the experience kits. So the collagen is back. The cleansing kits are back. We also have our experience kits back for a minute. I'm going to tell you guys, these are going to sell out. So this promotion goes through the 20th, where if you buy 5, you can get 1 free. And so it discounts the price down, I think, to like $99 or $100, I think US, sorry. I don't know the Canadian. And by the way, Canadians, if you guys are on, I know it's a holiday today, so I don't know if we have any Canadians in the house, but put it in the chat. Happy Memorial Day. I think they celebrate earlier than we do. So we have this promo going on right now. This goes till the 20th, so don't miss out on these. And you also get 20 trip points with that buy 5, get 1 free, which will go towards the Bahamas trip. So this is just an extra way to get extra points towards the trip. We also have our Boo Say Boo Club qualifiers. If you don't know about this, ask your upline leader. I'm not going to go into the details, but basically when you get a certain number of customers, I guess I am going into the details. When you get a certain number of customers, the 5, here's the club 5. We have Club 5 in the house. I'm not going to read all the names just for time's sake, but when you get a certain number of customers, you're recognized early on. And we have our Club 10, our Club 15, and then our Club 20 qualifiers. And at the beginning of next month, we're going to have tons of prizes. We're going to have lots of prizes that we're giving away. So get with your upline leader if you want to hear more details about that. I'm going to get myself out of the way so we can get into the good stuff. If you don't know who Ray Higdon is, you should. You need to put him on your radar. He is the best trainer in the network marketing industry, in my opinion. He not only has he walked the walk because he has been a top leader in not just one, not just two, but every single company that he's been with. But what's so unique about Ray is that he also has such a incredible marketing brain. He can go through, he can tweak a script. He can tell you how to improve your social media. He can tell you exactly like if there's one word off, sometimes being just having one word that you tweak in a prospecting script that you're sending out can make all the difference. And he's so incredible when it comes to recruiting and posture and marketing. There's literally nobody better, and you get to hear from him tonight. And I'm so excited. I attribute a lot of any success that I've had in the industry. I have learned it from Ray on how to do things the right way. So honored to have him here. I'm going to pass the mic over to him. We're going to spotlight him, and hopefully I told him to take as much time as he wants. If you guys need to leave at the top of the hour, that's okay. I wouldn't, I'd be taking notes, but hopefully he'll let you guys ask some questions in the chat as well.
Awesome. Wow. Too kind. Thank you. That's so kind of you. Awesome. Yay. I'm excited to be on here. And I see some familiar peeps. I see Tracy Zimmer, what's up? I see Christy Malone. Both are in my sales leadership mastermind. Appreciate you guys being here. Love being here today. Brianna, it's been amazing watching you soar. You know, I don't think you learned everything from me, but I appreciate you saying that. She's awesome. So, yeah, when I was, it's awesome. You guys have some recruiting bonuses this month. Hopefully, I can give you some ammunition to help you hit that, help you get some more recruits. Um, so real quick, I mean, Brianna shared a little bit there. Before I was ever a coach or trainer, I was the number one income earner of a network marketing company. I had, built that company after losing it all in real estate. So I'm very familiar with challenges. And so I ran with that company. They ended up merging into another company, and a few years later. And I decided in 2016 to focus on coaching the industry. And we launched our membership in 2017 called Rank Makers. And we really started tracking in 2018. Since 2018, we've helped network marketers bring in over 300,000 new customers, 71,000 new reps, and achieve 14,000 rank advances. And so we track. We like to share stuff that actually works, not things that just sound good. And so I love what I do. I absolutely love it. I trained a team in Orlando this past weekend, and then this month I'm in Dallas and in Bradenton. And so love training teams, love working with teams, and we just have a lot of fun. Anything else? I think that's it. I currently live in Naples, Florida, but next month I'm moving to Franklin, Tennessee. So I've been in Florida for 36 years, originally from Indiana, but we're excited for the move. My wife is finally getting her chickens. We got 5 acres up in Franklin, Tennessee, and so she's getting chickens. And then the other night she told me, she goes, "You know what we need with chickens?" And I'm like, "What do we need with chickens?" She goes, "Donkeys." I'm like, "Donkeys? What are you talking about?" She goes, "Yeah, donkeys, they're real loud and they chase the coyotes away." And so I don't know. I may draw the line at donkeys, but she is my wife and she tends to get whatever she wants. So we'll see. I may have chickens and donkeys here shortly. And so today I thought we would dive into, and I will take time for questions. I love what I do. So like I love your questions and I love to help. I thought we'd dive into the four P's. After being a top earner, working with a ton of top earners over the years, I thought it would make sense for us to dive into what I've observed are the four most critical components of becoming and staying a top earner. And those are my four P's. All right. And so I'll just give them to you, then we'll break them down for you, and then we'll get into questions. And so the four P's are pipeline, You may want to write these down. Pipeline, posture, position, and perspective. So pipeline, posture, position, and perspective. And those four things, I believe, are the critical components of being a top earner, being a rock star in this industry. And we'll break those down. Now, the simplest is pipeline. Very easy to understand, right? Pipeline. How many people are you talking to? Specifically, let's get more specific there. How many people each week are you asking if they're open to your product or opportunity? So a lot of people will tell me, Ray, man, I'm hungry. I'm really trying to make this happen. I want to be a top earner. And I know with one question, how many people last week did you ask if they were open to your product or opportunity? Not how many, reels you did, not how much you studied AI, not how many glamour shots you took or friend requests. Like all of that's great. All of that's cool. Like how many reels you posted, like that's cool too. All of these things are, can be important. But at the end of the day, it's how many people did you ask, whether they were a lead, whether you reached out to them, whether it's cold market, warm market, whatever. How many people did you ask last week if they were open to taking a look at your product or opportunity? That's the key question. And, some of you may have seen my book, Go for No. A lot of people like this book, but I was an author with Go for No for network marketing. That's where I talk about my journey of how I went from broke to the number one income earner in 7 months. And that was by going for 20 no's a day. And so every day before my head hit the pillow, I had to hear 20 no's a day. Now that's quite a challenge because, if someone doesn't respond to you, that's not a no. If someone says maybe, that's not a no. If someone says yes, that's not a no. To get 20 no's a day is pretty intense. I've only had three people actually that told me I went for 20 no's every day for 6 months plus. All three of them became $1 million earners. But I have hundreds of people that did less than that became six and some seven-figure earners as well. And so pipeline, pretty straightforward. How many people did I ask if they were open to my product or opportunity? And you want to track that. That is a super intentional thing, um, because you can be real busy, but not asking that question and not actually progressing your business. Now, where it gets a little more complicated is when we get into the other P's. Okay. So the next P is posture. Now, I had heard that word for years. People would say things like, you got to have posture when you're talking to prospects. And I'm like, all right, well, I kind of had a gist of what they meant, but what do they actually mean? When I talk about posture, it really is management of the energy of the conversation, managing the energy of the conversation. Posture is not arrogance, but it's also not weakness. It's not desperation. It's not eagerness. It is you managing the energy of the conversation. And so think about it like think of a conversation like this. So these are stick figures. I don't have a whiteboard. I used to have one. But these are stick figures. When when the prospect pulls away, right? And they say, "Oh, it's one of those things," or "Oh, is this a pyramid?" or "Oh, only the people at the top make the money," or right? They pull away, and you know what that looks like. When they pull away, you manage the energy of the conversation. You don't lean in, okay? And so that's an amateur move. The amateur move is if they pull away, you lean in. And so you want to manage the energy of the conversation. So I'll give you a few examples because I found that this concept especially needs examples. And so now some of you have heard my training before. Maybe you've heard these stories, but maybe it's a good refresher. So one of them that I think is very powerful is I had a rep in she wasn't my rep actually, she was somewhere in the team. She lived in Los Angeles. Her name was Amy, and she got me on a three-way call with someone out of Beverly Hills. So she gets me on this three-way call, and first of all, she breaks the rule. Okay, she edifies the prospect, doesn't edify me, right? So that's always a joy, but that's okay. If you have posture, you can manage that kind of scenario. And so we get on the phone and she goes, Ray, this is Barbara. And Barbara owns a talent agency in Beverly Hills. Everyone knows her. She manages some of the A-list celebrities out there. She's been doing this for 20 years. And Barbara, here's Ray. And that was it, right? And I'm like, ah, great. And so I knew how this was going to go. I knew that this is going to start off rocky, right? Because she's walking in postured. I'm just little guy, little hands, right? And so sure enough, she steps right into that role. And I promise you, I'm not exaggerating one word. This is exactly what she said and exactly how she said it. And so we get on I get on the phone. And she goes, "Hello, Ray. How are you today? I told Amy I'd look at her little home business." That's what she said. Little home business. And hey, she was postured. I wasn't. She walked right into it. And so what would most people do? Now, most people would fall in love with the prospect, like, oh, like little batty eyes, right? And be like, oh, wow, she sounds amazing, right? So they would say, oh, Barbara, thank you so much for your time. I'm sure you're so busy. I'll be quick, right? They would do almost like this apologetic, like, oh my goodness, let me kiss your behind, that sort of thing. That doesn't close sales. It never will. It doesn't. And so I don't need to dominate her, but I need to correct the posture. Okay. And so I actually used a combination of posture and position, which we'll cover next. Position is, where is the prospect? Okay. Where's the prospect? She's on the phone. I didn't get her in a headlock. No one put a gun to her head. She's on the phone. If someone's on the phone or if someone watches a presentation, they're looking for something. Okay. No one is just bored out of their mind and say, sure, I'll jump on a three-way call, or sure, I'll watch an MLM presentation, cue it up. No one's going to do that. It means they're looking for something. We just got to figure out what that is. And so, she says, I told Amy I'd look at her little. And so I said, well, I guess I'm a little confused. She's like, oh, about what, Ray? And I said, well, if you're doing so well, why are we on the phone? Now, some of you would be unwilling to ask that, right? You would just kind of roll with it and be like, oh, thank you for being on here, Ray. And so that's when I heard it, by the way. This is a sound that anytime I've heard it in 20 years of sales or 25 years of sales, anytime I've heard this sound, it was a closed sale. Anytime I've ever heard this sound, you know what the sound was? A sigh. Anytime I hear a sigh, it's like, oh, cha-ching, welcome to the team, right? And so I said, well, I guess I'm a little confused. If you're doing so well, why are we on the phone? And she goes, well, the industry's really changed, and a few clients have went away, and it's really a lot different than it used to be. And I'm like, oh, okay, got it. And so then I entered into painting a vision for her. So we go from her super posture, just overpowering me, to painting a vision for her with one question. But it got to the point. It got to where we needed to go very, very quickly. And so I said, well, why are we on the phone? And she goes, well, yeah, yeah. And I said, okay, so you're telling me that you're an influencer in an industry that is under massive change, and a lot of people are experiencing that change. Is that correct? And she goes, well, yeah. I'm like, okay. So you may have the possibility of helping a lot of people in a changing industry take control of their future. That's what I'm hearing. And she goes, I never thought of it that way. And so we'd already won before we even discussed the solution. She was already in before we even talked about the details. See, a lot of people that struggle with sales, they think it's about how many questions can I answer? Like just being a good question answerer. And that's rarely the case. So a lot of people that have extreme knowledge about their product don't always close a lot of sales. And so they can know everything about the horoscopes of the doctor that created it. They can know all about the what mountain it was found on and all the different ingredients and all the different, you know, things, but not be good closers because a lot of times that intrinsic knowledge about your product prevents you from focusing on what's most important, which is their problem. Their problem is always more important than your solution. And if you get good at expanding their problem, I'm going to let you in on a little secret. They'll buy any solution. This is why this is an ethical thing to teach, because you need to believe in what you're selling. If you don't believe in what you're selling, then this isn't what I'm teaching you isn't ethical. Because you can use these strategies to expand someone's problem where they go from a it'd be nice to solve this to the holy crap, I need to. And you can get them into something that you don't believe in. Let's not do that. And so I believe y'all believe in what you do. And I know my wife believes in what you guys do. She's got all your stuff. Right? She puts on all 52 different things. And so like she's a big fan. And so you got to believe in what you do, but you should never focus more on your solution than their problem. And so, a friend of mine is his name is Ben Settle. I actually had him speak at one of my masterminds. I think that was before Brianna was in it. But he has a quote that I absolutely love, and he says, "Talk more about their crabgrass than your weed killer. Talk more about their problem than your solution." But most people are so quick to get to their solution and talk about their solution. They're fired up about their solution. And so it's great to know about your solution. And that's awesome for people that are just ready to buy, but most people aren't ready to buy. We need to find out about their problem. Okay. So you'll hear me multiple times. And here's another example of posture and a combination position because, pipeline, that's the number. That's the number of people I'm talking to. Posture and position is the percentage I convert. If you understand posture and position, you will convert a higher percentage of people. And I argue closing is the most profitable thing that you can learn because if you can learn lead generation, you can learn pay-per-click, right? Those are great. You can learn SEO, you can learn the long language, the new form of SEO, which is how to be found in ChatGPT, right? That's called large language SEO. You can learn all that stuff, but if you suck at closing, you're going to have to generate 10 to 20 times more leads than someone who's good at closing. That's why we teach it so much. Is I just assume that you guys want results faster, not slower, and you want to have to generate less leads, not more. And so let me give you another example. So this guy, and you don't always know the problem before you get them on a presentation or before you have them watch a video or whatever your process is. Sometimes you find that out after. And so with this guy, he said he wanted to make some money. I had him watch a presentation, and I followed up with him, and I said, "Hey, did you watch the presentation?" And he said, "Yes, I did." And I said, "Okay, great. What'd you like about it?" He goes, "It's just not a fit for me." And I'm like, "Okay, fair enough." But he watched the presentation. I know people don't watch the presentation unless they're looking for something. I just don't know what he's looking for yet. And so I asked the question. I said, "Well, I'm just curious. What were you hoping to see?" That's actually how I've closed hundreds of people that hated the presentation. I actually don't care if they like the presentation or not. I care that they watch the presentation. If they watch the presentation, I know there's desire there. And I can just ask a few questions and I can usually figure it out. And so I said, "What were you hoping to see?" And he said, "Well, it'd be nice to make some extra money." So I would say make extra money or lose weight, which I don't think applies to you guys, or look younger are not deep enough reasons. We got to dig deeper. We got to ask more questions. And so he said, "Well, it'd be nice to make some more money." And I said, "Okay, like for what? Is there a reason? He goes, oh, it'd be nice. He was kind of hemming and he was kind of beating around the bush. He didn't want to get to the point. And so I could tell that he still had some resistance, right? He still felt like he was in sales mode, right? And so I said, well, just, tell me, maybe I can help. So maybe I can help is a diffuser. It will disarm people. Because it sounds like we're out of the sales conversation, right? We're not, but it makes it sound like maybe we are. And so I said, well, tell me more. Maybe I can help. And he goes, well, and he sighed. I'm like, yes. He sighed and he said, well, I have four daughters. I'm like, okay, I don't know where he's going, but I have one daughter and she expensive. And so like I can feel his pain, but I don't know where he's going. He said, well, I got four daughters and they're teenagers now. I've given them everything they ever wanted their entire life. They want their dream weddings. And there's, it's on the bride's side for us to pay for the bride side to pay for the wedding. And there's no way I can do it right now. And so I had to keep a straight face when I asked this question, but here's a great closing question for you. Is that something that's optional or something you need to do? This is a great question for you. Okay, when you're digging into someone's problem. And so I said, I had to keep a straight face because I'm a girl dad. I already know the answer, but he doesn't know the answer. He came to me with it'd be nice to make more money. I'm getting him to, I need to make more money. I have to get there. And so I said, is that something that, and again, had to keep a straight face. Is that something that is optional or is that something you really need to do? He goes, oh, I mean, he like bit my head off before I even finished the question. And he's like, oh, no, we're definitely going to do it. And then I asked the second question. This is another great closing question. Well, if you don't do this, how will you come up with it? If you don't do this, how will you solve that? If he had that answer, we wouldn't be on the call. He doesn't have that answer. But what I've just done is I've taken his it'd be nice to problem, expanded it, and then I made our conversation paramount to him solving the problem because he doesn't have another answer. So, of course, he moved forward. Now, this is a guy that watched the video, said, I don't think it's a fit. Two questions later, he's all in. And so you have to learn to expand the problem. And so now I've taught a lot of people to do, cold reach out, which, this is the only industry, by the way, that bashes cold market messaging. It's the only industry. I have friends in insurance. I have friends in finance. I have friends in real estate. They do cold messaging all the time. This is the only industry that bashes it. However, I last year I had a leader, $1 million earner in Australia, hire me. She goes, "Hey, I've heard you teach cold message. I think I want you to teach my team, but I want you to teach me first." I'm like, "Okay." And so, which I admire. Like she wants to get her jersey dirty. She wants to go make it happen. She wants to prove it before I teach her team. I'm like, all right, cool, let's do it. And so I teach her exactly what to do. We look at her scripts. I look at her targeting. She's off to the races. She does $100,000 in personal commissions, 100% from cold messaging in 60 days. Then she's like, okay, you can teach my team. And now they broke every rank I think the company has. It's amazing. And so I've taught that a million different times. When you're doing cold reach out, you can't figure out the problem until there's a stumble because you can't just hit them with 20 questions when you're the one reaching out. But if it's a lead coming to you, you should be finding out the problem very, very quickly. Hey, what made you click that ad? Or hey, what made you respond to my post? I'm just curious. Tell me about your journey. What have you tried so far? You should be learning what the big mistake I see now, and it's happening all across all different companies, is people are generating leads. And as soon as they generate a lead, they're like, watch this video. Right? Watch this video. Hey, go watch this. Here's a video. Right? You kidding me? You got to, like, they reached out to you and inbound, like, find out the problem first, and then you will be weaponized to close the sale. And so, if it's inbound, find out the problem as quickly as possible, ask enough questions to get there. Then send them through your process, whether it's a video presentation, whatever, process you guys use. And when we get to questions, feel free to, ask me about that kind of stuff. And so, is this helpful so far? I hope I'm not going too fast or anything. Helpful? All right. Yay. And so, but again, I have literally hundreds of examples of people who would not have bought had I not dug into their problem. So expanding the problem is just it's so critical. And some of you are having people saying, "Hey, let me think about it," or "Oh, I'll get back to you." Just ask yourself, do I know their problem? You probably don't, because you can't create urgency based on your solution. Now, you can create mild urgency if you have a sale going on or something, but me, I don't even like that kind of urgency, because if I bring someone in on a sale, part of them may think, oh, I guess I got to wait for a sale to bring other people in. I don't like that. I like to dig into their problem to where it's painful for them to think about it. It's painful for them not to move forward. And the only way you get there is you got to figure out what is the desire that they want to attain, or what's the problem they're trying to solve. And so I'll give you this is a fun one. So many years ago, I was in a travel company, and I just wanted to get the point of asking questions. Okay, I know that you guys don't do travel, right? So I did a presentation, and one of my reps brings me a guy, and he says, "Hey Ray, this guy says he never travels, right?" And so like people would do this to me all the time. They'd bring me like the impossible guy or whatever. And so I'm like, okay, cool, hey, no problem. And I said, hey, I'm just curious, if you could travel, where would you go? And he's like, oh, I don't travel. I'm like, oh, I got it. But if you could, magic wand, poof, go there. Where would you go? And he says, he goes, well, I got this koi pond. I'm like, okay, what's he talking about, right? He goes, I got this koi pond, and they're from this lake in Africa, and it'd be nice to go and see where they're from one day. Like, like this is really meaningful to this guy, right? I mean, who am I to be the judge, right? Sounds crazy to me, but like this is meaningful to this guy. And I just looked at him and I said, well, when the hell are you going to do that? And he looked at me and he's like, he looked down and he looked at me and he looked down and he goes, you're right. And he signed up. And hey, I hope he made it there. I don't know, right? I'm positive we would have helped, with that travel. But you got to be willing to ask the questions. And there's a phrase that I just love. It's like a mantra of mine. We have to be as brave as the people who need us. That man had never had someone stand up for him. He was just floating through life, not achieving the things that he wanted. And so we have to be as brave as the people who need us. We got to be willing to, when someone says it's not a fit, to care enough about them to actually ask a few more questions. And so that's what we do. And so position, I've covered it a little bit, but position is, what's the location of the prospect? Where are they? And here's the number one rule about position. This will help you. You will close sales that no one else thinks you could. In the absence of progress, fall back on position. In the absence of progress, if I can't move forward, fall back on position. So, you've heard me say this, right? Hey, why are we on the phone? Right? I couldn't just move forward with Barbara that said, I look at her little home business. Okay, great. Let me tell you all about it. Right? I can't do that. With the guy that says, I don't think it's a fit for me, I can't say, great. When would you like to get started? Like, I can't. That doesn't make any sense. So, in the absence of progress, I fall back on position. And so now, if you're reaching out to people and they just never respond. Like if you're doing like cold messaging or something and they never respond, period, they stayed at position zero, don't even bother. There's hundreds of millions of them. Don't worry about it. But even with warm market, right? You can reach back out to them. I'll tell you, do you want my this is I've never seen anyone train this. You want my number one favorite warm market follow-up when they're not responding to you. Do you want that? Anyone want it? Drop in the comments if you want it. Okay, two of you. Okay, we'll have a side Zoom. So Brianna, let's set up a side Zoom with five people now. Okay, so I have an extremely postured three-step follow-up, but you wouldn't want to use it on warm market because it's pretty hardcore. It gets them to respond over 50% of the time. So if you have people ghosting you that are either leads or cold market, my three-step follow-up will absolutely, I guarantee you 50% or more will respond to the three-step follow-up. But it's pretty postured. Pre-postured. You wouldn't want to use that on warm market. Here's my favorite for warm market. It's beautiful, and I've tested it myself. I got a 90% response. Now, I'm not guaranteeing that, but you should get at least a 50% response, really. Okay. And so if you've messaged them about what it is that you're doing and they never responded, hit them with this. I'm going to put you down as a no, LOL. I'm going to put you down as a no, LOL. I'm telling you, you're going to have an extreme, because people are okay with pretending like they're ignoring you or whatever. But when you call them out a little bit and you make a little bit of joke about it, you're going to get a lot of responses. And I've by the way, I have taken that follow up and I've made sales from that. So it's not just a cutesy thing to do just to get them to respond. I've actually taken it forward to get sales, right? So I'm going to put you down as a no, LOL. That's it. So for warm market that's ghosting you, hit them with that, see what happens. Okay. All right. So back to position. I've given you a few different examples. It's, and people will ask, how many positions are there? I don't know. Right. So for me, if I'm reaching out to someone and I say, hey, would you be open to take a look at what it is that I'm doing to make extra money or what it is that I'm doing to look great and look younger, et cetera, and they say yes, that would be like a one. Hey, would you be open to watch a presentation? They say yes, that's a two. They watch a presentation. So there's just, I just want to be keeping track of where's my prospect and what does that look like? Okay. And yeah, Christy, for warm market, I don't increase the posture on warm market because I don't want you losing friends. And so I just that one, just that one. And so in the absence of progress, I fall back on position. So you should have, now I'm just curious, Brianna, when you guys are selling the product, do you have them watch a video or no?
Yes.
Okay, so watching a video is a pretty crucial component to what you guys are doing.
Yes. We have
Oh,
brand videos and then we have opportunity videos.
okay. So my belief is if you can get them to watch a video, you should have a high close rate on that. Now, that's assuming you're not just winging it out, that they're actually agreeing to watch the video, but you should have a high close rate. If you're asking the right questions, if you're falling back on position. So if someone comes to you, and again, I've hundreds of times I've done this, someone comes back to you and says they absolutely hate that video. It was the worst video they've ever seen. If they had a one-use time machine, they would go back in time and not kill Hitler, but go back to before they watched the video and just not watch the video, right? That's how much they hate it. I've never had anyone say that to me, but it would be hilarious if they did. So I'm trying to emphasize they hate the video. When someone says that they didn't like the video or it was terrible or poorly done or whatever nonsense they want to say, step one is act surprised. I don't care if the last 99 people have told you the video sucked. You act surprised. Oh my goodness, did I send you the right video? Let me look. Yeah, that's the right video. My wife, she was on board. She knew, like I taught her all this stuff. And so if someone said they didn't like the video, I'd yell in the background, babe, babe, they didn't like the video. And she knew on cue, she would say, did you send the right video? Yeah, that's what I checked. And so I'm creating doubt in their mind. Now that's not going to close them. All right, they're going, man, maybe he's right. Maybe it's awesome. Here's my credit card. No one's going to sign up from that, but it'll cause a little bit of doubt. And then I just ask the question, what were you hoping to see? Because they were hoping to see something. And I've never had someone answer crazy. It's always been something we can actually help with. And so it's just asking of questions. All right. So that's position. And then final is perspective. Now, perspective is velocity. It can be absolute magic. If there's any sabotage, this is the like the jet fuel stuff. And so perspective is where do you spend the majority of your time in your mind? What are you mentally rehearsing? Are you sabotaging? And I have found one thing to be true. If you struggle with consistency, I'm just going to tell you 100% of the people that I've ever coached that struggle with consistency, it all came down to one thing. Now, there are different pieces around this one thing, but it came down to an observation they made in childhood, some kind of conclusion. And so I'll give some examples. So when we were selling, oh yeah, when we were selling this book, Time, Money, Freedom. Okay, we did this with Hay House. Grant Cardone wrote the forward, and like I was doing every trick in the book to sell these books. All right, so I did this. I did the Willy Wonka trick, and so I took like one out of every 40 or 50 books. I put a gold certificate in, and if you got one of the gold certificates, you got a 10-minute one-on-one coaching call with me. Okay. So we had people buying hundreds of copies to try to get one of the gold tickets. And so this girl gets a gold ticket, right? So I got 10 minutes. And so I get on with her. And for 4 years, she has been stuck at 500 bucks a month. That's what she's bringing home from her network marketing company. And I know that all patterns, like a pattern like that, I already know this is some kind of childhood belief. This is some kind of program that she's got going on. It has nothing to do with her tactics, has nothing to do with her reading Atomic Habits or being better at AI or having a better bio or any of that nonsense. It has to do with a program. There's something that is keeping her from taking off. And so I only got 10 minutes, so I got to get there quick. And so I said, okay, tell me, why do you think you're stuck? And so she, blah, 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 blah. And then she said, I just don't want to let anyone down. And so that was kind of my opportunity. I said, okay, who let you down as a kid? And she said, well, maybe not let down, but shame. I'm like, okay. And she goes on and tells me that her mother had been a prostitute. And so at this point, I believe I know what the problem is, but I ask a few more questions. And so I said, okay, do other people know that? And her answer was very interesting. Her answer was, oh, yeah, a lot of people know it, and she's still alive. What an interesting answer. So I don't know if she caught it, but there was actually a part of her that was waiting for her mom to die. But I said, I know what your problem is. I didn't look at her scripts. I didn't look at her bio. I didn't look at her Instagram. I didn't look at her branding. I didn't look at anything. I said, I know what your problem is. She goes, what's my problem? I said, you believe that if you reach your potential, that some of the people that know your mom's history to bring you down to size will bring that up and bring shame to her, which you would do anything to avoid. And she starts crying. She's like, oh my God. Yeah, I've never thought about that. I'm like, but there's another way to look at it. And that is your mom did a lot of things that she didn't want to do for you to have a better life. And for those to be the reasons you're not is kind of a slap in the face. And so I will admit that one I thought maybe I went too fast. Maybe I went too hard there. And so I'm like, and she's crying. And so we got off the phone. Now, sometimes when I give people the truth they don't want to hear, they end up hating me. I've had a, I've done that, right? And I've gotten better at it over the years, but so her, it's a question mark. And so I text her the next day. I'm like, "Hey, how's it going?" And she says, "Last night I had a conversation with my mom, and it's on." In 90 days, she had gone from 500 bucks, whatever that meant, to 90,000 volume in her company, becomes a multiple six-figure earner, a multiple best-selling author. She's a complete rock star. It was a 10-minute call. I did not look at her 52 different posts. I didn't look at any of that stuff. Perspective. And so you want to, and this is, for those of you that are of faith, it's actually biblical. Proverbs 15:32 talks about patterns and talks about how we are to recognize patterns as not punishment, but as things that are guiding us to a better way. So we're not to stay stuck in patterns. We are not to stick to in pattern. We're not to be stuck in patterns, but you have to look at things differently. So some of the more like that's kind of a unique one, right? But some of the more common ones is if you had parents that made a bunch of money and they lost it and your family was brought into shame, there could be a program in you that says, well, if I make a bunch of money, I'm going to lose it too, and I don't want to do that. So how do you avoid that? Just don't make a lot of money. Some people that I've coached, they had parents that worked really, really hard. I've noticed this with a lot of people who had immigrant parents who worked really, really hard, but never made hardly any money at all. They sabotage them making a lot of money because they don't feel like it's right for them to when their parents didn't. Some people, if their mom or dad didn't accomplish their dreams, feel bad accomplishing their dreams. They've never even had the conversation with their mom or dad about, you know, accomplishing their dreams. They just assume like, well, they didn't get to play the NFL or whatever, and so they sabotage. And so perspective is one of those things that it's, of all of these of the other three P's, none of them are such a multiplier. Like this one can be 100x multiplier. I don't know if any of you guys would know her, but there's a girl we feature on our YouTube channel, Amy Murphy. Amy Murphy was in network marketing for 17 years, had never made a profit. Okay, just to translate that, okay, she had spent more money than she made for 17 years. She gets into our training, we figure out her programming. She goes and makes $5 million dollars in her company, retires her husband, pursues her acting career. It's amazing, right? So there is no multiply. Like if you get good at closing, you can absolutely three times your money for sure. Like you can close three times more leads easily. Perspective, you dial that in, you might be 100x. And especially if you've been under sabotage and under patterns. And so pipeline, posture, position, perspective, those are the four P's. Before we get to questions, I will share that if this was helpful to you and you'd like me to personally work with you, we actually tomorrow night we kick off a 6-week container called Prospecting Mastery, where for 6 weeks I look over your marketing and your conversations. You actually will share your screen. Those of you who are brave will share your screen, and I will actually tell you what words to change. I'll tell you how to respond for 6 straight weeks. And so that's called Prospecting Mastery. Although I am going to look at your marketing too, so it's probably not the best. We need to work on our titles for that one. But for 6 weeks, I look at your marketing, I look at your conversations. It's a pretty intimate group. Right now, I think we have 5 or 6 in there for this particular session. We'll probably add another 5 or 6, so it'd be like a dozen. Be like a dozen people in there. So pretty intimate group sessions, and we go usually a little bit, hour, maybe a little bit more. But it's not. I don't have a. I'm going to teach this. It's me digging into your stuff. So looking at your exact phrases, looking at your exact marketing, looking at your bio, looking at your social media. And so if you'd like more information on that, you can at higdongroup.com/PM. Higdongroup.com/PM stands for Prospecting Mastery. And I will type it in here, higdongroup.com/PM. And we start tomorrow night. And so there you go. And I'm happy to answer questions. And I'm okay to go past the hour if needed, or if wanted, I guess is the question. But yeah, is there any questions that I can help with? I don't know if I missed any.
I know one question we saw earlier was what is your three-step follow-up that you do? And I think
Yeah,
that's for the cold market though.
sure. Yeah. So if it's anything but warm market, right? So this could be a lead that's ghosting you. This could be a cold person you reached out to. Warm market, I wouldn't do this to because it's strong language. So it's three messages, and you if you're on a platform where you can tell if they've seen your message or not, don't just bombard them with all three if they haven't seen any, right? Because you look crazy when they log in and they see, all these messages. And so you just want to, I prefer if I see that they're seeing them, then I'll send them, 3 days in a row, right? So I'll send message one, two, three, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. But if I see that they're not seeing them, then I'm gonna hold back because it's pointless to send messages to someone who's not seen them. And so this is to someone who's ghosting you. Okay. And so message number one, you'll get 1 to 2% response on this. Okay. This is all to set up for really message three. And so message one is, hey, I haven't heard from you. Let me know if you're still trying to blank. Very simple, right? And so you'll get 1% response to that. It's not if they're already ghosting you, that's not going to work, but it sets you up for message two. Message two will get you 5-10% response. And message two is, hey, I haven't heard from you. Let me know if I should mark you off the list. Now, see, you wouldn't say that to warm market. That sounds weird, right? And so the message two, and if they see that, don't respond to it. Message number three, this is the one that you won't want to send, but it's the one that will work, and it will work over 50% of the time. I'm just telling you. Message three is, haven't heard from you. I'm going to go ahead and mark you off the list, but I wish you the very best. Now you're going to want to add something to it. So you're gonna say, Ray, I'm using your scripts. You're gonna say, hey, haven't heard from you. I'm gonna mark you off the list, but I wish you the very best. But we do have a sale right now. The sale ends Friday. You're gonna want to throw something in there. Don't. Don't do it. I'm telling you, you will get a 50% or more response from that third message. Been teaching this a long time. And people, it's funny because like in the 6-week containers we do, like people will come on and be like, Ray, it worked. I'm like, I know this. I know it works. This isn't like, I'm telling you, it works. And so don't add anything to it. But if you ever change your mind, don't do it. Yeah, I know you want to. You want to be nice. I get it. But it eliminates the FOMO. It eliminates the fear of missing out. It eliminates wow, this lady's for real. Man, she must be busy. She's not chasing me anymore. The more that we chase, the less that we close. And that's like my tagline. Like I help people go from chasing to closing. And it's actually easier. It's easier and more efficient to be a closer than a chaser. I know maybe it makes more sense. So Holly, so Amy had some childhood programming, and she also needed some help with social media too, which she went on to be very, very good at. Um, what's another one I can share with you? Oh, here's a wild one. Okay, I'll give you a wild one. The So I was coaching this girl, and she here's what she tells me. She goes, okay, I joined this company, I broke records and I was rocking and rolling, and then I figured out that the leaders were no good and I got out of there. And then I joined this other company and I crushed it over there. And then I figured out that the leaders were bad and I got out of there too. And so she shares with me the story of this up and down. She rocks it. They build statues to her, and she breaks records, and then she gets the heck out of there because something was unethical. And so I know this pattern, okay? This pattern is just there's some kind of observation she's made as a kid. There's some kind of program. And so I ask her the question. I'm like, "All right, tell me about your parents." And I could just feel her energy, right? Her energy was contrarian. Sometimes some people, they can't help it. They they actually don't want you to solve them. They don't want you to fix them. They don't want you to figure them out. And so you can kind of get that when someone's kind of battling you. And so I just felt that energy. And so I said, "Tell me about your parents." And she goes, "Oh, they're wonderful. Still together today. Never beat me. Nothing wrong. Great, great parents." And so I just got that energy. And so, you know, if if someone's pushing against a door, right? And they're pushing, 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 you don't push back, right? You open the door, right? And they fall through it. And so that's what you do with contrarian energy. So I just said, yeah, I just felt it. It was pent up. It was kind of weird. And so I said, "Hey, it's okay if you don't remember." And so that's when someone's really against you solving them. That kind of statement, it just they can't help it. They fall into where they didn't want to go, but I need them to go there for me to help them. So it's kind of weird, right? And so I said, "It's okay if you don't remember." And she immediately goes, and we're on audio, like we're not on video, so I can't see her. Like, was she just in an accident? Like, she get hit by a car? Like, I don't know what's going on. And so I'm like, "Are you okay?" And she goes, "I just remembered as a little girl catching my mom cheating on my dad." I'm like, "Got it. I know what your problem is." She's like, what do you mean? What do you mean you know what my problem is? Right? Because her idea was it wasn't her problem. It was all these unethical leaders. She just happened to get into all these companies and every leader's unethical, right? Wherever you go, there you are, right? She was the constant. And so I said, as a little girl, you witnessed that, and everything was perfect, and your world was shattered. And you vowed as a little girl that you would never let that happen to you ever again. So as soon as things start going well, you pull the rug. And she was like, "Holy crap." you know, and she knew that was the case. And so since then, she has not had that phenomenon again. It's been years. I'm still friends with her, and she's been a rock star. She built out her business as a rock star, and so, but that's something you ain't gonna learn that in Atomic Habits. You're not gonna learn that in Think and Grow Rich. You're not gonna learn like these are deep things, and so I really believe that. So all of this I did, before I became someone of faith. I do believe prayer can help reveal a lot of this stuff too, and I've helped people with that as well. But that's that's the deal, right? When there's a pattern, there is a program. That's always the case. And what I've specifically seen is anyone that has a desire. Now, some people don't have a desire. Like I know people that they don't have any desire to build a career. So is that a childhood program? I don't know. But someone who wants to be consistent that isn't consistent, it's always a childhood program. Always. Never seen it different. And just depending on the personality is how I can help them, get it out of them. Um, to help them, right? Because I just believe that we're not meant to live in limitation. I don't think God put us here to, just toil and strife and be stuck at, whatever level. And so, that's my bit on that.
Well, I have a follow-up question to that. So, do you feel like just awareness is enough to make the change, or do you recommend they do some sort of purging period after that? I mean, what do you have them do after that to push through that once they are aware of it?
So without awareness, I don't think it's possible. Okay, I'll just say that. Um, with awareness, it depends because there's multiple things, right? So let me give you my example. So I grew up in a very abusive home, and I mean, I was starved. I would literally steal food and like smuggle it outside and eat it, and so when I became when I got out of that house, I ballooned up. I mean, I gained so much weight. I mean, I was just big boy. And so my whole adult life, up until, a few years ago, I really struggled with weight. I was 255 pounds, just for example, like right now I'm probably 180, 185, something like that. But at one point I was 255 pounds. And I knew, I was even aware that to me, eating equaled freedom. I was proving my stepmom wrong when I ate whatever I wanted, which wasn't healthy, which wasn't good. And I was even aware I couldn't shake it. I couldn't shake it. And so there's there's like different components, and so sometimes it's an agreement, sometimes it's the Bible calls it idol of the heart. That's Ezekiel 14:4, if you want to check it out. But an idol of the heart, sometimes it's an agreement, sometimes it's a contract, sometimes it's a lie that I'm believing or a lie that someone's believing. And so what I don't believe is that any of this stuff has to take a long time to fix. That I don't believe. And so once I had that awareness, it still took me prayer and figuring that out, that it was actually an idol in my heart, to get rid of it. And so I do think that, since I came to faith 3.5 years ago, I do think that personal and self-development is very hard. Whereas I think leaning more on God is way easier and faster. And so I'm a big fan of that. Um, but it's awareness, number one, and then, you know, depending on the person's, beliefs, if they are of faith, Mark 11:24 says, when you pray, pray as if you've already received. And so I just thank God for that trait. And so I don't really pray for results, like results are results. I pray for traits. And so thank you for wisdom, right? Wisdom be a trait. Thank you for putting your will above my desire. Thank you that I'm doing this for your glory, not mine. Like I seek out traits that are admirable to me, and that will help the identity of the person who I want to be, because that's kind of a master key solving thing versus give me this one thing or whatever. I don't know if that makes sense. But yeah, it depends. It depends on the person. But without awareness, I want to say it's impossible that the person can change, because they're just, the program is the driver of their life, right? They're the passenger. They think that they're the driver. They're not the driver at all. So for most of my life, I had a program. It was of defiance, and it was, I'll show you. So anyone that doubted me at something, it would trigger me to go prove them wrong, whether I wanted to do the thing or not. And so when I was 19 or 20, maybe, I had a friend tell me that I was an idiot and I could never do computers. So, of course, the next 7 years, I built a career in computers, and I find myself in Redmond, Washington, applying at Microsoft SQL Server. And I'm like, what am I doing? Why am I doing this? And I was trying to prove my friend Martin wrong, that I hadn't even talked to in years. The program had been driving me for years. That's actually most people. Most people, the program been driving them their whole life, either of trying to, you know, get acceptance where they never got it. And a lot of times our childhood wounds create this scenario that we just can't fill, but we try everything to fill it with. So a lot of people, they try to fill um, significance with money and or significance with fame. And neither of those things will ever make you significant, right? No amount of it will. And so you'll chase that stuff and be very disappointed. Where I was. 2019, I'd generated over $30 million. I'd been a number one earner. I'd traveled the world. I'd shared the stage with everyone. And I knew something was missing. And that's what actually led me to the multi-year search that led me to faith. So,
That's beautiful. You have been such a blessing tonight. I don't care how many times I've heard you speak. I always have a breakthrough every time you speak. I
oh,
always have this new awareness, and I still take 2 pages of notes, even
that's awesome.
you would think I would have learned it all by now. But that was so fantastic, and I want to thank you for your time. And
Yeah.
if you guys have never done one of his programs, I highly recommend it.
Mm.
It will change you, and obviously you can tell from here tonight, it's not only going to change you in business, but it's going to change you personally. It's going to change your life. It's going to change your personal life, your family life, your spiritual life, your business life, your financial life, everything. So highly recommend it. What was that link again?
Higdongroup.com/PM for
Okay,
prospecting mastery. And yeah, we
thank
start
you
tomorrow
so
night.
much.
Would love to have you on there. It would be a fast track to get you in shape.
Thank you so much, everyone. If
Yeah.
you can unmute and tell Ray thank you for being with us
Oh,
tonight, it was so fantastic.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
It was
oh,
Thank
wonderful.
you so
I
much.
This
This
was
was
such a
great.
great
You're
call.
the best.
thanks for
Inspiration.
having
Thank you
me.
so
Thank
much.
you.
All right.
Amazing.
Thank
God
you.
bless you.
Thank you.
God bless you, Ray.
Thank you.